Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Today is Monday, the 27th of December, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, there's a lot going on out there right now. Last night I heard news. Putin, the Russian leader, they've been amassing troops near Ukraine. Uh, Tremendous amount of troops amassed near the eastern side of Ukraine, on the Russian side of the border. Anyway, Putin put out demands. He's got demands out now. And, this kind of, to me, in my mind, shows that, yes, he must have certain intentions. Anyway, aside from that, he put out demands to be met. I think the demands were that he wants Ukraine never to join NATO. And he wants also, I'm just summing it up real quick. But the other demands were that that the escalations of forces that have been occurring in neighboring countries next to Ukraine that are NATO member countries, he wants demands that they don't put in more missiles and stuff like that, bring more troops in to these neighboring countries and establish bases close to his borders. Anyway, so we're going to have to wait and see how that situation evolves, because that is an evolving situation. But let's get the charts open right here and take a look at what's going on. Evergrande, the big Chinese property developer. Well, we're right back where we were a couple months ago with Evergrande, 2 or 3 months ago, when they were starting to restart their projects, and basically they are a viable company inside China right now. And why I say they're viable is because they are restarting up their projects. China Evergrande Group says it's resumed construction at most of its housing projects, as authorities push the debt-laden developer to pay migrant workers and deliver apartments. So they're still a viable company. They're working. They got people on the job inside China. And yes, they owe a lot of money all around the world to these different banks and stuff. Some over $300 billion, but that doesn't really matter, because they're still a viable company inside China, and who's going to stop them? If the Chinese government says work, then they work. And this is basically what we've come down to. They're going to finish off these apartments and stuff that they have. The authorities are pushing them. It says nearly 92% of Evergrande's property projects have so far restarted. So they're up to 92% of as viable as they were before the beginning of this whole thing. And what about all these banks and stuff that they owe money to? Well, I guess they can just go out and whistle. So things are continuing on there with Evergrande. Now, what else did I want to talk about here? Let's take a look at the silver price today. It's $22.95. It's up. It's up 9 cents on the day so far. I'm going to tell you guys something. The Federal Reserve, they're never held accountable for the horrible things that they do, and oftentimes it's years later before they say, hey, you know what, they caused the Great Depression. And years later they'll admit to it. Way later they'll admit to what they did. But they're never held accountable. They're too big. They've got authority that goes beyond accountability. And right now they're doing something that's going to affect all of us with a negative impact. They are trying to tighten up monetary policy into weakness. And, out there, what we have is this system runs on debt creation. And if they cut the debt creation back, well, it's going to lead to ultimately to a crash. The whole system has to run on new money creation constantly coming in because it's a Ponzi scheme. They're going to crash the system again. And are they going to be held responsible? No. They do basically whatever they want. And it affects all of our lives, Now, does this mean that after they crash things, they're going to go back to easy monetary policy? Well, of course they are. But it's going to impact an awful lot of people's lives because this is directly ahead of us. The tightening. Then the loosening is going to come after that. But we got to go through this tightening first. And the tightening is going to last a few months. And you know what? You could see it adversely affect the price of gold and silver. And you could see it adversely affect the price of Bitcoin and cryptos. And you could see it really have a massive impact on equities. I'll tell you guys, honestly, why do we need these things, these institutions? Heck, we got Bitcoin now. Just kidding. But, it might not be such a joke. Because even though they might desperately impact the price of Bitcoin during this period when they're trying to tighten, and I know equities haven't been affected yet. I know Bitcoin, cryptos, gold, silver, none of it's been really affected yet adversely. But it's coming. And they're not going to relent. The central banks are going to try to get away with as much as they can get away with in the next few months. They're just going to keep pushing. They're going to keep pushing and pushing until the whole thing starts to break. And once it creates a crisis, then they're going to back off and go in the other direction. They're going to crawl back into their hole once the whole thing starts to go into a crisis. But they won't be held accountable. They'll just open up and loosen monetary policy again, and everything will go back up. So what this is going to create for you guys is you got to watch the Fed and think about the timing of this whole thing. Oh, there's another thing I want to talk about too. I want to talk about the Omicron just for a minute. The top experts, out there, they say everybody's going to get exposed to it because it's so contagious. Okay? I think we're in the middle of this thing right now. This thing is moving so fast. And I dubbed something in other shows called the Omicron effect. You guys know what the Omicron effect is. It's not that it's going around and creating massive hospitalizations and things like that and killing people. No, that's not it. What the Omicron effect is when people get Omicron, they're sick. It's just simple. I mean, generally they got all the symptoms, which is not much fun if you want to think about it for a minute. I heard that I was listening to two people that had it and what it was like, and they said it's fever, and body aches and sore throat and headache, bad headache, and all your muscles ache and everything, and this lasts for quite a long time, for days perhaps. I think when you have it, and I think you're pretty darn miserable. If you understand what night sweats are, when your body's got it racked with fever, and you wake up and your sheets are wet with sweat, sort of thing, When you're like that, you're not out working. You're not out flying an airplane. You're not out going and flipping hamburgers at the restaurant. So somebody else, might go to the restaurant and the guy's not there flipping hamburgers. Where is he tonight? Well, he's got Omicron. This is the Omicron effect. We are still on the front side of this thing, and it's going to peak at a certain point, not too distant in the future, and then it's going to recede. Because it's striking all at once, the tendency is to recede quickly too. If something comes in quickly, it tends to go out quickly. And if something lingers around, something that's much less contagious, it can linger around for months and months and months because it's slowly going through the population, and and the less contagious it is, and stuff, it can take a long time. But when something's extremely contagious, it spreads from one person to 2, 3 other people, and then they spread it to 2 or 3 other people again, and so on and so forth. It tends to move really fast. And if it tends to move fast on one side coming in, well, you all see how fast this came in. The tendency is people are going to get better on the other side of it. So, yeah, Omicron, we're going through, I'm not going to say we're in the worst of it yet, but it's pretty bad out there. And man, it come fast, like lightning through the world, It's just a matter of a few days. There's only a few countries had it, and then the next thing you know, like 30 countries, and then up, and just boom, plastered everybody, and that's what it's doing right now. That's what it's doing right now, is plastering everybody. Send them home sick, and anyway, so we got that going on. That's going to slow the economy down somewhat too, But the Fed is determined, no matter how slow things are going to go, they're not going to change their monetary policy until they get to a point where there's a crisis. And then they have to back off and say, hey, if we go any further with this stuff, we're going to bring the whole system down. Okay, let's change direction again, and then emergency meeting or whatever from the Fed. I've been talking about this emergency meeting for ages now, how that the Fed will probably go into emergency meetings and then everything's going to shift on the other side. The same thing happened in 2008. They're just putting us through this garbage over and over and over again, and people just can't seem to understand that they dictate this garbage. Instead of running a smooth economy, they dictate these up and down pulses in the economy, where they overstimulate on one side and then withdraw it when they shouldn't on the other side. They're a maniacal institution. In fact, this is the tip of the iceberg as far as maniacal institutions are concerned out there right now in the world. The Fed's just the tip of the iceberg, We've got huge problems in the world that aren't being solved without creating massive distortions. And the biggest distortion of all is when they finally hit the end of the road and the fiat currencies go. They're going to be gone. There's going to be a time coming at a certain point in time when fiat currencies, in the form that they have been in, like with paper money, is going to be gone. It's going to be all digital. Not going to be able to see money anymore. That point in time, they're going to have such control over what you call your money that you can't buy a piece of bubble gum without them knowing the time date, the time stamp on it, the purchase order number, everything. You won't be able to buy a piece of bubble gum. Well, you know what's going to happen though. And this is why they hate gold and silver so bad. This is why ultimately they might end up trying to confiscate it, is because it's going to facilitate black market transactions at a certain point in time when they get their control system in place, or control net in place, so that they know all your business, know where you're doing everything. then ultimately the gold and silver at that point is going to facilitate black market transactions that they can't see. They'll try to see them. They'll try to spot them with their with their they got flying overhead. You know, they can read a newspaper from space. You know what I mean? It's a control grid. Uh, we're moving into this a dystopian type environment that's similar to what we had back. We've read in these fiction novels like 1984 and Brave New World, and you know, I mean, I could go on, but it's dystopian. And you know, if that's what we want for, I mean, we've already seen tremendous damage done to our youth through this pandemic. This is going to carry on with them all the way through their lives. They're going to not be able to function properly in society because of what they had to go through. And you know, I mean, this is a tragedy in the works. But no, they don't care. They don't care. They're going to just do what they want to do. And they don't even ask anymore. They don't ask the people at all. Do you want this new rule in? No, no. You wake up and it's in a newspaper or it's on your phone. It says the new law has just been. We just inform you. We inform you of this new law, and you're sitting there looking at it. And what am I going to do? This law is going to impact me in a negative way. They keep making more and more laws. They never take the old laws off the books. And then they say, well, ignorance of the law is no excuse. They just keep heaping more and more and more on top of us all the time. Until the end, we can't even function as humans. This system, the way it's structured, is inhumane. The whole thing. And, you know, it's being structured by these bureaucrats who have no sense of morality. They just want to get power and they want to get money. And they want to get votes. And they're all got their hand out. It's just such a corrupt system. It's gone beyond belief. Anyway, getting into silver here. It's up 9 cents, but there's nothing to get excited about, guys. Because ultimately, the Fed is tightening right now, and their tightening is going to impact all these markets in a negative way. So basically, I guess what I'm saying, there's no real money to be made in almost anything right now until they get this over and done with. It's like, when are you going to get off the pot? You know, and either you know what, or get off the pot, as Pop used to say. Anyway, $22.95 for silver today. Let's take a look at gold. Now that I've had my little rant about these rats that are running the system. 1807 down $1.60 on the day so far for gold. Now let's take a look at cryptocurrencies. Now I'm going to refresh the pages. 24.31 right now. 24.39. So it's going up. It's at 2,439,000,000,000 for the entire industry, and Bitcoin price is at $51,833.76. So it's exceeded the $50,000 mark again. Now I'm not excited about this. I think there's huge buying opportunities coming. I think crypto, when this starts to hit, probably between now and March, and the whole economy starts to cool down rather rapidly, I think that we're going to see these prices come down on Bitcoin. It ain't going to be pretty. It's going to be. I don't think it's going to be as bad in gold and silver, but I think Bitcoin and the other cryptos are going to take quite a beating. But then on the other side of that is, I think it's going to be boom time for the cryptos again. So that creates a buying opportunity for people who are paying attention. We're paying attention here. You know, I mean, just let's take a look here at Dow Jones today. It's up 228 points on the day so far. 229 points, 36,180. Oil is at 75.68. So oil is getting rather toasty warm and high. It's up $1.08. It's up $1.89 today, which is up 2.56% in one day. That's a big climb for oil. That shows you that inflation is running hot. Everything's running hot right now, but the taps are being turned off. So you know what's coming next. Takes a little while to make its way through the system, you know, these sort of things. You know, when you're on an upward surge like we've been on, it takes a little while for that to cool off and change direction. And then when it first changes direction, it starts to slump down a bit slowly, and then it goes faster and faster down until the Fed puts the brakes on it. They're gonna, I figure, between 20 and 30%, and they're gonna slam the brakes on to this thing. You know, I think they realize that they're gonna cause this. They can't be that naive to think that they can tighten into this kind of weakness without causing this. Of course, they got an excuse. They can say they're fighting inflation. That's their excuse. Move index today, 77.29. Now we're going to take a look at bonds and rates, and we're seeing the long end is falling just a little bit. Looking at a 10-year at 1.479 and U.S. 30-year at 1.88. So like I told you in the show there, like yesterday or something, watch that 10-year. When it hits 1.75, that's when we're in the crash territory. Right now it's at 1.47. So it's got quite a little ways to move. You know, what's that? It's got about 28 basis points or something to move before it's going to get in crash territory. So we're watching it. And I think you're going to see it climb over the next couple months. It's going to creep up until it gets up around 1.75 and then look out. Dollar index today, 96.10. And the dollar is going along sideways. Bippity, bippity, bippity. Thank you guys for tuning into my show. We need big changes done to this world because we can't continue running this Ponzi scheme worldwide forever. But the problem with these changes is they have to be so radical to the system that it's going to cause the system to convulse. There's no other way around it if you have to restructure this so it's not a Ponzi scheme anymore. And if they don't do it themselves, if they try to think they're going to pull a Japan and continue on with this thing for the next 30 years, cryptos will do it for them. Crypto's a monetary black hole. And just one Bitcoin could suck up all the value of everything in the world. Just one coin. Yet there's not just Bitcoin. There's like thousands of coins, different coins out there. There's cryptographic. A lot of them are going to die and go the way of the Goody bird. They're going to disappear. But you're going to find that the big ones are going to stay, and they're going to continue to grow bigger and bigger until they suck up the entire Ponzi scheme, monetary scheme, if they don't stop it. And, you know, at a certain point, it becomes unfeasible to try to stop it when they've run their corrupt monetary system parallel to a straightforward monetary system. I think it's called Gresham's Law, where it's like the good money is gonna thrive and people are gonna move toward it, and the bad money is just gonna go down the toilet hole. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye bye.